I'm Peter Reinhardt, and I've been searching for the perfect pizza my entire life. It's a quest that has taken me all over the world. It's become about so much more than pizza. I've gotten to know some of the world's greatest pizzaiolos, and met artisans who make cheese, bake bread, and even grow the best tomatoes. The one thing that unites them all? Their passion for perfection.
What's burning in their belly. So that's really what all of this is about.
We never know where the quest will take us, but we'll follow that trail wherever it leads. Welcome to Pizza Quest.
You know, there are some pizza makers who are comfortable working in any style of pizza, but there are some, like Anthony Mangieri of Una Pizza Napolitana, who work in one style only. They're like minimalists. They just focus on making one pizza, but making it perfectly. It takes a lot of focus and drive to do something like this. And I wanted to find out what it is that drives Anthony Mangieri to make the perfect pizza. You've been making pizzas professionally for what, 20 years?
20 years.
20 years,
yeah.
But really baking pizzas since for 30, if you count your
And
sort
I
of
had a
apprentice
bakery
days.
for 4 years before I opened the pizzeria in Red Bank, New Jersey, with a wood-fired oven,
Really?
which was super before.
That was way before.
Oh, it was so before, like, suburban New Jersey knew what wood-fired
But
bread
why
was.
wood? Why were you doing wood? What drew you to that way of doing baking?
No, there was something so historic about it, and like old-fashioned and just mysterious, that it just turned me on. And I was like kind of baking a lot, going to Italy with my parents whenever we did, and just like falling in love with so many aspects of it. I was living with my grandmother at the time, and I was getting up and baking. I had like bread schedules, and I was baking everything on like a pizza stone in her oven. And I mean, literally, her entire kitchen looked like a commercial bakery. And I was just making this stuff and like giving it to my mom. She was bringing it to work. I was giving it to neighbors.
You're just doing it.
I was doing it.
This is
I
how
was
it starts.
obsessed. I was obsessed.
With 30 years of pizza making behind him, it was time for me to see some of Anthony's artistry in action.
All right, so what kind of pizza we're going to make?
I guess we'll start with the margarita, which is, the classic tomato sauce and cheese.
It's really the pizza that defines the pizza maker, isn't it? It's like what
I think so.
What a baguette is to a French baker,
I would
the
agree
margarita
with you.
is to a pizza maker.
Yeah, I would totally agree. And I think it's probably the one that's the hardest to make come out good.
And again, this is a dough that is leavened only with sourdough or natural. We call it sourdough here, but it's really a natural leaven.
Yeah, it's naturally
no yeast.
leavened, exactly. So it's just flour, water, and sea salt.
Italian flour.
Italian flour. This is a pretty straightforward, delicate flavor when it's done right.
It's a naked pizza. It's going
Very much,
to show any flaws. What's the weight of this dough?
I would say it's about 9.5 ounces.
So about 9.5
to
ounces,
10.
and you haven't really stretched it to its full size yet.
Right.
But then you'll finish that
It'll
stretch
get
out
stretched
later.
a little bit more here, but it's not going to be that big, which also makes it a little more trickier for baking. I just had a discussion with my my wife's uncle when we were in Naples, because he really loves pizza that has like a big puffy crust, which you don't really see. And you're starting to see a little bit of it come back in Naples, but when I was really into Naples and really influenced by Naples, that was the way they were. They were basically like just a puffy dough with a little bit of stuff on it, but basically it was almost like a pita in a sense. It was just doughy.
So you didn't really stretch it. You just pressed it out with your fingertips.
Totally.
And
Try
then,
to keep as much air in as possible.
And I see you're putting mozzarella cheese, and
right,
this is
buffalo mozzarella. This is San Marzano tomatoes.
So when you get them, are you getting them as whole tomatoes and crushing them?
Yes.
And do you do that by hand or with a machine, or how do you do that?
We've gone over the years with doing it by hand, and now we use an old-fashioned food mill.
One of the things I love about it, aside from the fact that the color is just it's going to be good because it looks beautiful, but there's tomato solids in there. It's still meat. It's not just a puree.
Anyway. I think it adds to the taste of the pizza if it's a little bit wet.
Well, the sauce is beautiful. It's thin, and the flavors are going to pop. And then tell us about the cheese. You're choosing buffalo mozzarella, not just regular.
Again, fior di latte, when it's melted on a pizza or cow's milk mozzarella, it just gets flatter. It gets those little holes in it. It can brown more. It just visually...
It goes from white to brown.
It just doesn't look alive like this cheese does when it's cooked.
So we got the cheese on
that's cheese. So then this is sea salt from Trapani, which is like the main area of Sicily that is famous for sea salt. And then for the margarita, of course, you have the basil.
And we tear up the leaves to...
Tear it up, yep. We cook them. A lot of people like to put them on after the fact. Again, For me, I don't like anything to go on the pizza after it comes out except for when we make the pizza with the arugula. I like everything to come together on the pizza in the oven.
Yeah, we've over the years we've seen a lot of different choices on when to put the basil on.
Yeah.
Do you put oil over the top of this before it goes in?
Now I'm going to put oil on. That's my final thing, which kind of binds it all together.
Okay.
And then I'm pretty heavy-handed with the oil, and I use a very light oil. And that's it.
In the oven for about 60 to 80, 90 seconds, depending on how hot the oven is. Do you ever have to dome it?
I do, yeah. I do probably with almost every pizza.
Well, but look at on this pizza how the basil has not only wilted, it's started to char in its own right, and also but the cheese is just browning up a little bit. It's not super brown.
Right.
See, so here's this real puffy edge, and you can see it's really puffed up. And I'm guessing we're going to taste a nice creaminess in this slice. Okay, I'm going to try the one you sliced first. And the first thing that is really different about a pizza made in this Italian style is that the crust gets soft very shortly after it comes out.
Yeah.
It's not a crisp, hard crust. It doesn't necessarily. It's standing out pretty good right now, but it's starting to kind of sag. But that's part of the process. This is a different kind of pizza. That is fantastic.
There's moments when it looks beautiful or when it tastes great that I'm like, oh my God, that is exactly what I want. And it will be one pizza, and then there's 10 that don't come out like that, you know? It's such a moment to make it come out like that because the oven is constantly fluctuating, the dough is raising, you know, there's just so many things that play into it. So that moment when it can be perfect is almost like, I almost don't know why, you know, why it's like that. And then the next one isn't. My main influence was Naples and the history of Naples and my idea of what it used to be. Basically, I used to want to be into making a product that was the same as it was in Pompeii. The pizza that we make evolved from just making it. It was before the internet, it was before all these things, so in a sense, I kind of put it to the same idea of like punk rock music or anything, you know, when it was still innocent, if it was, to where it was like you did things without any expectations and you did things without any real influence from anyone else other than your little world.
Anthony's oven is like at the heart of his altar. If he's the high priest of his pizzeria, his oven is its altar. And that's the place where he takes his simple ingredients, flour, water, salt, yeast, and transforms them into gorgeous works of art, his pizzas. If Tony Gemignani is the Mozart of pizza, then Anthony Mangieri is clearly pizza's Chopin.
So the marinara, in my opinion, is the pizza that really highlights the dough the best. With this one, I use more sauce than I do on the margarita. It's basically like double the sauce. So this is the DOP San Marzano's, the coarse Sicilian sea salt, fresh chopped garlic.
So this is something different from a margarita. There's fresh garlic.
Right. This is much more savory than the margarita. As far as flavor-wise, the marinara is easier to make. When you put the garlic, and then we use oregano that's grown in Campania outside Naples. It's dried. It's really fantastic. Take a smell.
Yeah, that's got
It's
a real
really,
pungent aroma.
but it's not that weird oregano that we grew up with in pizzerias where you shake it.
Yeah.
Like, you know, where it's dead and medicinal. What I do is I put it on as I crush it between my fingers to release more flavor as it goes on. I don't just throw it on.
Nice, and plus you can smell the aroma
Yeah, you
even
smell
now.
it, yeah. And then from that, we put some fresh basil. Again,
basil and oregano. Okay.
Yeah.
All right,
So
little
here we
olive
go.
oils.
Little olive oil.
What kind of olive oil do you use?
This oil is Sicilian. I find that the oils that are grown near the sea generally work the best on pizza. They're lighter. Even in inland from Naples, like in Benevento, they're just heavier. They're more grassy, and they end up on the pizza with this high heat, almost tasting greasy in a sense, which is weird. It's coastal.
Olives
it
are
needs to be
coastal,
coastal.
yeah, near the coast.
Yeah, in my opinion, yes. And that's it. And then we're going to bake
into
it.
the oven.
Into the oven.
So again, you put that shavings in there to get a spike of heat. You got a big spike of heat.
One thing though that we used to have happen a lot is, years ago we used to have the marinara was the cheapest one on the menu. So when people would come in that had never been in the place, they would almost always order a marinara. Always.
So one of the things that I love about your pizza, and we don't see it often in most American pizzas, but more so now, is that the crust, especially in the cornicione, is creamy. It's moist and creamy, almost like custard-like. And to me, that's one of the great joys of a properly made pizza. I think that if you're going to say the Naples-style pizza offers something that we don't see that often in America, that's it. And we don't see it that often here, but yours has it. When you bite into it, it's not dry, it's not starchy, it's creamy.
Yeah, thanks.
When people come in, they should take one of those five, should not ask for you to do some variation on the five.
We would prefer them not to.
What do you want your customers to experience when they eat your pizza?
I would say I just want them to eat it and see that it's true. You know, I guess the thing that we would all hope for the most is that people come in and sort of get that it's almost like coming into someone's house and it's treated with like an openness and an open heart.
It's such a pleasure to see these virtuosos composing and performing their own masterpieces of pizza. We found our Mozart, now our Chopin. I wonder who we'll discover next. This quest will never end.